disruptive.
America that I fought for.
Weird thing to happen. Hello, one and all. Welcome to this edition of Kitz Corner. And I feel like after the amount of times I've researched Canadian stories as being a Canadian myself and seeing what our government does on a daily basis, I feel like the more of these stories I do, we should almost have like a special segment where we have this kind of graphic and just be like, oh, Canada, and just do like that, like a face palm. Because as a Canadian, looking into our government, looking into the Canadian stories that are affecting us, I just feel more and more embarrassed. I feel more and more just completely, I've lost touch. I've lost faith. I've lost it all. And I feel like that's the majority of most Canadians. They just feel like this facepalm moment where, my God, what the hell do they do now? So, yeah, this comes in the wake of what happened in the House of Commons just recently in the parliamentary question period. Because apparently, the leader of the opposition, Pierre Poilievre, was kicked out of the House of Commons. The leader of the opposition was kicked out of the House of Commons for referring to Justin Trudeau as a WACKO for implementing a certain policy. Which I don't understand exactly why that is such a controversial thing, concerning all the controversy that our government has been doing for a matter of time now, including bringing a former Nazi into the parliament so they could applaud him not once, but twice. Here's what unfolded here. So, True North tweeted this out, saying, after a heated exchange between the Conservatives and Liberals, Conservative MP Rachel Thomas and Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre were kicked out of the House of Commons by the Speaker on Tuesday. In response to the Conservative caucus, all left the chamber in protest. So watch what unfolded here.
Honorable Leader of the Opposition.
Minister is not worth the drugs and death. His extreme and radical drug policy has increased overdose deaths in British Columbia by 380%.
So what Pierre Poilievre is referring to is that in places like BC, British Columbia, they provincially moved the goalposts to allow more illegal narcotics to be legalized and regulated into the public domain. And this was in response to the opioid epidemic. This was in response to trying to facilitate people to get them off drugs. And I've heard different perspectives of this. I've heard what people that were against this were saying about this. I also heard what psychiatrists are saying and addiction specialists. I listened to Gabor Mate, who was Aaron Mate's father, famous psychiatrist, explain, because he's Canadian and he has a take on it. So I understand the policy measure of why they did that, but coming from the perspective of from rehab and from people that specialize in addiction, that wasn't what needed to be done. That was a portion of what needed to be done to curb people away from the addiction. It's not enough to just legalize all the narcotics and then expect them to weed themselves off. It's not going to happen that way. You need some sort of enforcement to guide people away from those harmful narcotics. And Pierre Poilievre is critiquing Trudeau on that, because now we're seeing uprise of people that are overdosing, primarily as a result of COVID, primarily in the result of the economy, the struggles of cost of living, and so on and so forth. We've seen a dramatic increase in drug use and overdose. That has now become concerning. So Pierre Poilievre is directing this to Trudeau, and here's what unfolded.
In the year following his decriminalization of crack, heroin, and other hard drugs in hospitals, transit buses, coffee shops, and parks where children play, there has been a record-smashing 2,500 deaths. Will the Prime Minister accept the BC NDP's demand to recriminalize those drugs?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Speaker, I just answered that question. What hasn't been answered by the Leader of the Opposition is why he chooses to continue to court extreme right nationalist groups like Diagolon. He refuses to denounce these extremists who don't believe Canadians should coexist with each other. Instead, they call for war and tell people to follow their instincts accordingly. The Leader of the Conservative Party is actively courting the support of groups with white nationalist views. It is disturbing, and he needs to stand up and apologize now.
Right now. Colleagues, so soon in question period, it is important that we try to control ourselves. I'll ask the honourable member from St. Albert, Edmonton, please, to allow members to ask the questions and members to respond. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Mr. Speaker, I always condemn extremism and racism, including from the guy who spent the first half of his adult life as a practicing racist, dressing up in hideous racist costumes so many times he can't remember.
Damn. Shots fired. Shots fired. I gotta respect the guy for that.
The honourable member, Leader of the Opposition, knows that to make an accusation directly at the character of a single person is not appropriate.
So, the Speaker of the House is saying that that's an accusation. An accusation of a photo that's been circulating for years now of Justin Trudeau in blackface. That's still an accusation, according to the Speaker of the House of Commons, who, by the way, was handpicked by Justin Trudeau himself after the last Speaker of the House congratulated a former Nazi and then said we're doing everything that we can to help people of all faiths. In respect of the Ukrainian militia, we're going to invite the most nefarious war criminals and Nazi mass murderers to the parliamentarian as peacekeeping Canadians. The last House Speaker, Anthony Rota, got kicked out, had to step down. They handpicked this guy, and now he is the hand puppet tool for Justin Trudeau.
And I'm going to ask all members to control themselves. I'll ask the Honourable Leader of the Opposition to rephrase this question and to start from the top.
Mr. Speaker, I will also condemn the extremism of a Prime Minister who gives hundreds of thousands of dollars of anti-racism money to a Jew hater who has proposed shooting Jews in the head. I condemn a Prime Minister who allows the IRGC, which murdered 55 Canadians, to remain legal. And I condemn a Prime Minister who allows open use of crack, heroin, meth, and weapons in hospital rooms that threaten nurses and on school buses next to children. Will the Prime Minister reverse his extremist policies and
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Leader opposite is showing us exactly what shameful, spineless leadership looks like. He shakes hands with white nationalists and then goes to actively court the support of those members and has the nerve. Get it together, Greg!
So this goes on for a while, but I want to show the exact moment where this got really heated.
To kill the people in our hospitals and on our public transit. When will we put an end to this WACKO policy by this WACKO Prime Minister?
No. That is not There are a couple of things which are going on here today, which is not acceptable. And I ask all members, please, to keep themselves, to control themselves. I'm going to ask two things. One, I'm going to ask the Honourable Leader of the Opposition to withdraw that term, which is not considered parliamentary.
Mr.
So
Speaker,
he's upset that he used the term wacko. That's literally what broke the straw there. That not the horrible policies, not the direction the country is going, not the fact that we have been siphoned out and this nation is going on downhill, but the fact they used the term wacko and it's considered unparliamentary. And that's what they're quoting here. Here's the Globe and Mail. House Speaker kicks Pierre Poilievre out of Commons over unparliamentary comments. The term wacko is unparliamentary. It's not polite. It's tone policing. You're tone policing someone who's objectively criticizing open policy of drug use. And the fact that the Prime Minister is ignoring those comments, you saw in the previously how he jumped that question and started talking about Pierre Poilievre having comments with white nationalists. And if we really want to go that direction, why is Justin Trudeau signing himself with Zelensky? Why is Justin Trudeau signing himself with the Azov Battalion? Why is Justin Trudeau signing himself with the worst, the Economic Forum? We could do this all day. But the fact that Pierre Poilievre directly referred to Justin Trudeau and the policy as a wacko decision, that was considered too much for the House Speaker, Mr. Tone Police, that was handpicked by Justin Trudeau. They got kicked out of the House of Commons. So, here to break it down, this is Rachel Gilmore. She's an independent journalist, and she broke this down in like a TikTok video, and she's going to sum it up perfectly of what exactly happened.
Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre just got kicked out of question period over unparliamentary comments, and then the rest of his party left in protest. This came after the Prime Minister accused Pierre Poilievre of pandering to white nationalists and refusing to condemn them. Here's what's going on. After news broke that Pierre Poilievre visited a Freedom Convoy-style encampment with an RV that had a Diagolon flag drawn on the side, while some others in media tried to downplay it, I did some more digging and broke the news that some of the people at the encampment had closer ties to the far-right extremists than originally reported on. Now Poilievre is facing calls to condemn these guys, who, even though they're laughing at him, do not actually like or support him at all, despite him pandering to the people who at one point traveled in the same circles. So here's what Trudeau said about all that today.
It was a choice to pander to white nationalists, not an accident. And it is a choice to continue to not condemn them and condemn everything they stand for in his quest for votes.
After that, Poilievre called the Prime Minister a quote-unquote wacko, which as a career politician, he knows you're not allowed to do.
When will we put an end to this wacko policy by this wacko Prime Minister?
And Poilievre refused to.
So now I'm confused on the journalist perspective here, because if you saw the clip that we were showing there, the actual exchange, the term wacko was not referring to the white nationalist suspicion. It had to do with the fact of the drug policy that Pierre Poilievre brought up about BC openly decriminalizing narcotics like crack and heroin and other illegal narcotics and flowing into the cities. I'm very conflicted on this. I'm very conflicted. I didn't see this before, so don't blame me on this. Someone sent this to me and said, like, this is a fantastic journalist. I just thought we'd give it a chance, but this seems like a skewed direction. But the fact of the matter is that you're kicking out the leader of the opposition for using the term wacko, when literally there is more extensive unparliamentary action being done in the House of Commons that's not being condemned. That is the sinister part. That is the concerning part. You openly brought in a former Nazi that's mass murdered a bunch of Jewish and Polish citizens, in World War II, openly gave him citizenship to our country of Canada. If you look at the 60 Minutes video that we broke down, we, for decades, have allowed Nazi criminals to rain their terror into Canada, give them citizenship, and allow them to execute themselves as Canadians while not being condemned for their actions against humanity. And we allowed that in the House of Commons and applied it twice. And that's still not being fully condemned. That's not still being fully punishable by Justin Trudeau, by members of the NDP, by members of the Bloc Québécois, by members of the Conservative Party, because they also apply to this. So it literally baffles me that the things that they're policing on, the things that they're actually like ravaging against, is nothing compared to the heinous stuff that the parliamentarian has done to people, has done to policy, has done to this nation that is not being condemned. So that's the thing I would address in a situation like this, not what Rachel Gilmore is apparently saying that. But anyway, let's see the rest of this.
Withdraw the remark, at least not without replacing it with the word extremist. So because of that, the speaker ended up kicking him out of the House of Commons. And after more back and forths mentioning far-right extremism, the rest of the Conservative Party left the room. So yeah, that kind of screwed up question period, where, if we're being honest, nothing really gets done anyways. But it does give opposition parties the chance to directly question.
I give her credit for that, because clearly question period, the House of Commons, when you turn on CPAC, which is not the American Conservative Coalition, not that thing, but CPAC, that's the cable outlet it's kind of like C-SPAN for Canada. When you turn on this and you watch what's happening in Parliament, it's literally like WWE. It's wrestling. It's a show. It's theater. Because all they do is scream and yell at each other, but again, when push comes to shove, when they actually implement actions, it's the worst bipartisanly, and they do nothing, they do no real due diligence for the people.
The governing party. Though these days it's mostly just used to get juicy clips for social media. Naturally, we're seeing both the Liberals and the Conservatives trying to score political points off of this. The Conservatives have already sent out a fundraising email. As for the far-right extremists, they seem to be enjoying every second of this exposure. But you know what they really don't love? When we report on the things they actually say and do. Like when they post vicious racism, laugh at videos of people in India being brutally killed by trains, and when they platform literal neo-Nazis. So yeah, all of this is very stupid. But what's very real is the risk of someone exposed to this group internalizing their language and deciding to do something about it. That is serious. Or if you prefer, WACKO. What do you think of all this?
So, I'm glad that she reported on this. I think the fact that she leaves out where the context of WACKO came from is kind of a bit telling, kind of a bit biased towards that. But at least, like, she's willing to mention about this. She's mentioning about the back and forth, how hypocritical both the Liberal Party and Conservative Party are when it comes to this. How this is really just soundbite material for campaign exposure, and how they're profiting off this or fundraising off this to think that they're opposing sides. Push comes to shove, they're actually bipartisan. The whole entire parliamentary system is bought by lobby firms. It's bought by other governments. It's bought by, the World Economic Forum, WHO. They all play a part in, playing our government. And to think that we have opposing sides, to think that you have options, it's almost laughable. It's almost laughable. Pierre Poilievre may say the right things against Justin Trudeau, and we're fortunate enough that at least someone's actually willing to say it out loud, but his actions don't represent the words that he's preaching, because his actions is doing the exact same damaging that Justin Trudeau takes part of. So you're not actually being the resistance for Justin Trudeau. You're just facilitating a different opinion, a different voice, but not practicing what you preach. And that's why I said, for a long while that, yes, you may endure Pierre Poilievre more because of what Justin Trudeau has done to the country, but be warned that whoever is in charge of the country, whether it be Pierre Poilievre or Jagmeet Singh or the Bloc Québécois or Green Party, whoever it is, irregardless, they are just the mascots. They are just the theater that comes in front of the real players that have more control over the nation and have collectively put us into this kind of situation where they're demonizing us, where they're demonizing the country for their own agenda. It's more important to focus on the people behind the person, the representative, than the representative itself. Like I said, it's not just Justin Trudeau that has done this work. It's also people like Chrystia Freeland. It's also people like Steve Gilbert. It's also people that are behind Justin Trudeau, just like the people behind Pierre Poilievre and other leaders. It's a big, giant club, and you and I ain't it. That will stay true to this day as it ever will.